everyone. Our next session is one everyone waits for each year, and I am delighted to be able to present our CEO panel. This year, our CEO panel is comprised of 6 exceptional leaders. I would now like to briefly introduce our CEOs. Mullally is President and CEO of CUA, one of the largest community-based banking institutions in Atlantic Canada, a position she has held since 2011. Prior to this role, Marie was the president and CEO of the Nova Scotia Gaming Corporation, a provincial crown corporation, which she held for 10 years. An alumnus of Dalhousie University, Marie holds a Bachelor of Commerce and Masters of Business Administration degrees, finishing first in her class. She received the Fellow Chartered Accountants designation from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nova Scotia and was named Chartered Accountant of the Year in 2008. Marie has also been recognized as one of the top 50 CEOs in Atlantic Canada and holds a Certified Director's designation from the Canadian Institute of Corporate Directors. Marie is also an active volunteer in the community and has provided leadership on a number of private, not-for-profit, and public sector boards. Patrick Sullivan is President and Chief Executive Officer of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. He has been General Manager and President for both startup and large organizations, including Indigo.ca, Workopolis.com, and most recently Tourism Nova Scotia. In October 2011, Patrick completed a 250-kilometer run across the Saharan Desert. This helped raise over $100,000 for the National Advertising Benevolent Association. Patrick holds a Bachelor of Business Administration from Mount St. Vincent University. Sara Napier is President and CEO of United Way Halifax, which she calls her dream role. As a dedicated volunteer, Sara always has been connected to youth organizations, most recently as a volunteer and supporter of Homebridge Youth Society. Sara has also served on the National Brand Task Force for the Children's Hospital Foundations of Canada, the board of the SOBI Executive MBA Alumni Association, and as a Lorenz Scholar Mentor and Selection Committee member. She received the Halifax Cornwallis Progress Women of Excellence Award, an Innovation of the Year Award from the League for Innovation in the International Community of College Network, and an Alumni Impact Excellence Award from the SOBI School of Business. Sara holds a Master's of Business from the SOBI School of Business at St. Mary's University, a Bachelor of Public Relations from Mount St. Vincent University, and a Community Economic Development Certificate from Nova Scotia Community College. Marc Lieber is President and CEO of the SaltWire Network, Atlantic Canada's largest media platform. Marc leads the senior team in strategy development and execution while steering the company's strong media brands into the future. A lifelong entrepreneur, Marc has a proven track record in corporate finance, marketing, and business development, and team creation and motivation. Marc is also President and CEO of Brace Capital Limited, a private investment company. Marc has also been involved from a board and ownership capacity with the Halifax Hurricanes of the NBL of Canada since 2015. Craig Lynk graduated with an MBA from St. Mary's in Halifax. Craig started his career in commercial banking with HSBC. He held several progressive positions within the corporate banking at HSBC and CIBC. Craig transitioned his career to a private sector role as the operator of a consumer products business, Giftcraft Limited. Today, Craig is the CFO of Atlantic Corporation Limited, a growing group of privately held and diversified businesses, including transportation, healthcare, information technology, real estate, and construction. Brands included in the group are Seaboard Transport and Sanix. Throughout his career, Craig has sat on the board of directors for several private companies, non-for-profit organizations, and industry associations. Doug Nugent is currently a group rental manager in Atlantic Canada with Enterprise Holdings. He has 20-plus years of experience in operations, sales, and key account management with automotive partners across Atlantic Canada. Doug is a graduate of St. Mary's University and currently sits on the board of directors of Atlantic Canada's Better Business Bureau and the McPhee Centre for Creative Learning. Please give our panelists a welcoming round of applause. I will start the session with a series of questions for our panelists. Time permitting, there will be time for student questions at the end. Our first question, and I'll get Sara to start because she's right to my left, is please tell us about your organization.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. United Way Halifax is a charitable organization that focuses on improving the lives of those in our community, especially focusing on those experiencing the most marginalization. So the vision of our organization is a city that is united by compassion, rich in opportunity, and free of poverty. So we fulfill or try to aim to work towards that vision. We're inspired by that vision. We work with corporate donors. We work with over 200 corporate workplaces who raise funds for United Way Halifax. We distribute those funds to organizations and programs that make a difference in the front line of community. And we're also a voice for change and a convener and a collaborator on many different partnerships that are focused on addressing systemic issues in our community, such as poverty and housing and homelessness.
Perfect, and we'll just move along the table to your left.
Thank you. Thanks, Sara. My name is Doug Nugent with Enterprise Holdings. You're more commonly referred to and probably familiar with our brands of Enterprise National and Alamo Car Rental. Enterprise is a company that's a privately held organization that was started in 1957 in St. Louis, Missouri by a gentleman by the name of Jack Taylor, and his dream was always to be the best rental car company in a small market, and that was always the focus, was customers, employees, and we'd worry about profitability later on. His son came along and as Jack always liked to say, messed up the company and made it a global company that now has a presence in over 90 countries, almost 2 million vehicles in fleet, and over 100,000 employees. We've been in Canada for about 25 years and are a big supporter of a lot of the university campuses and do a lot of recruiting, so we're interested to talk to anybody here that might have an interest in a career with us.
Thank you very much, Doug. My name is Pat Sullivan. I'm the president of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. The Halifax Chamber of Commerce is a membership-based organization of over 1,600 members. That's businesses, small businesses, large businesses. It also includes many of you at the Mount, business students, I believe, and we can certainly provide more information for you about that. We represent 65,000 employees in the greater Halifax area, and our job is to please our members. Probably Enterprise's job too, I suppose. Is to please our members, to help them to build their top line, to help them manage their expense line, to have a bigger bottom line. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. So CUA, as noted, is a community-based banking institution. We're part of the credit union system in Canada and one of the largest in Atlantic Canada. We offer all the banking products and services that a traditional bank would offer, whether it be loans, mortgages, deposit, bank accounts, wealth management, insurance, credit cards, etc. But the big difference is how we do it. Our business is really built around our members who are also our customers. We're a cooperative model of banking. And at the end of the day, our members are the ones that tell us how they want the organization to run. We've been operating in the province for over 70 years. We're just celebrating our 70th anniversary. We have over 20,000 customers, primarily a lot of small businesses, a lot of people across the province, with an asset base of approximately $500 million. We're a growing company. It's very exciting. It's a great place to work, great place to be. And we just recently opened our newest branch in Spryfield, so we're very excited about that opportunity.
Hi, I'm Craig Lynk. I'm the CFO of Atlantic Corporation. So we're a holding company for the Shannon family here in Nova Scotia. We own 7 or 8 different companies, mostly in transportation, healthcare, IT, construction. Joe started the company, 70 years ago. He was a truck driver, bought one truck, bought another truck, and just built what is one of the largest empires in Nova Scotia. He's an Order of Canada recipient, Canadian Business Hall of Fame guy, Nova Scotia Business Hall of Fame. You can see his picture. Used to be in the Metro Centre. I don't know. I think it's in the Nova Centre now. But his vision with the companies is to continue to grow and to continue to be based in Atlantic Canada. I moved back from Toronto a couple of years ago, and happy that all of our companies are based here in Nova Scotia.
Good morning, I'm Marc, and I'm the president and CEO at the SaltWire network, and we're Atlantic Canada's largest media platform. There are 900 of us, and our flagship paper would be or media brand would be the Chronicle Herald that you may know here in Nova Scotia. What we're trying to do is move and transition. You've heard a lot from print to the digital world. We still put a lot of ink on paper, but part of what drives us every day is leading that move to digital. So we're lucky now to have a lot of publications around the world, and certainly across North America. We're hoping to announce our first European partner on platforms, digital platforms that we've built here in Nova Scotia. So that's a little bit that, often people in the media don't tell their own stories. So I'm proud to share that we do have a vision for the future, and we're looking to hire young people that want to make a home here in Nova Scotia. So happy to talk to anyone.
Perfect. Now that we know a bit about your organizations, what are the most important decisions that you make as a leader of your organization? Patrick, would you like to start?
Starting with me. Well, I think the most important decisions I make as a leader are, number one, about staffing. So who are the folks that are going to be on the bus, if we could put it that way? Who are the folks that I get to work with and that will support the organization? So that's number one, I think. Number two, strategic direction. So where are we going and where are we going to be in the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 years? Obviously do that with the support of our board of directors and with the team. But I think the team and then where we're going are probably the two things that I focus on most often.
Yeah, I hate to say ditto, Patrick, but ditto. There's no greater or more important decision you make than who you hire to be part of your team. I tell you, it's the most important thing I do. In fact, I probably get way too involved in the hiring of every single member of our team. But not only are they critical to help you deliver on your future plans and your strategy, they are the face of your organization. They're the ones representing you with your customers. They're your ambassadors. So there's no greater or more important asset to a company than the people that work in it. So it's one that I would say easily, daily, I'm dealing with people, either issues or opportunities. It is the most important part of my job.
Yeah, I mean, those are thoughts I think we all share across the table here today. But, I think one of the things I've learned over time is some of the most important decisions you make are the ones that you don't make. And in some cases, that's helping other people who come to you as a leader with their challenges and trying to help them cut through the noise a little bit and trying to find the critical path that allows them to make the right decision. I think when you do those types of things and you show people they have that kind of confidence in them, in a lot of cases, some of the best decisions I've made are the ones that I personally haven't made.
Yeah, to pick up on that theme, I think, and I'd like to know what everyone else thinks, I try not to make any decisions. I try to support decision-making with my team and allow them to make decisions in their team and facilitate. I ask a lot of questions, and, I'd really try. What color shirt I'm going to wear is the first and last decision I'd like to make in a day. That doesn't always play out perfectly, but I think you want to listen a lot and ask a lot of guiding. And whenever I make a decision, I'd like to try and build consensus with the group as to why we might not have gone with the team members. They're the subject matter experts. They know, I think, what they're doing. It's what we. To Marie's point, and everyone would echo, you have to have a team that you trust, and not to get too far into the questions, but those are big parts of, I think, what a leader does. But I'd like to know what everyone else thinks there. How many questions do you really answer in a day, or decisions do you make?
Yeah, I think everybody here has hit it on the head, right? The biggest asset that we all have is our people. You folks are in a good position now because I don't think it's ever been harder to find good talent, and the Mount, I'm sure, does a fantastic job with you guys. But trying to find talent is impossibly difficult today. And the only way you are able to attract and retain good talent is if you have it to start with. Because everybody wants to work with the brightest, the best, in a good culture, in a supportive, collaborative environment. And so most of the biggest decisions I make during the day are, how do I support that? How do I make that happen with inside the organization?
Again, ditto. Like, I echo everything that people have said, and I think a little bit to respond to what you were saying, Marc, about decision making, and it's all about empowering others. And so rather than asking or directing, asking people, what do you think? And making sure that you're creating that culture where people do have the ability and the talent, that they're feeding that up to you. But on top of that, I think the most important decision that I make every day is mindset. So you even make that before you even walk into the office of how are you showing up? Life is hard, right? There's lots of ups and downs, but how are you providing an authentic, kind of consistent leadership to your team that's building a lot of trust within everyone that you work with?
So we see we have a variety of answers on our panel. So the next thing I'm going to ask is kind of going to build on what we just asked a moment ago, but describe the key factor that has significantly influenced the success in your career. So whether that's a person, a resource, an experience, whether it's like an educational degree that you've done so far, what has really impacted you and given you the success that you've achieved so far?
If I can, we're parroting each other, but it's mindset. I don't know that I've been successful yet, so and I think that drives people too. Is the finish line keeps moving, but it's the attitude of what matters and what's important to you. And I guess the biggest thing for me, and again, I wanted to talk first so I could hear everybody else, was really not caring what other people think. People close to me, that whether that be at work or at home, that's what matters, and let's make the right decisions for the long-term health of our organization, I guess, is what really drives me. It's that attitude that comes in who's on my team and being loyal and faithful to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. When I first thought about this question, I said, well, what really is a big factor? And I hate to say it seems so commonplace to say it, but it's mindset, but it's a mindset to what you bring to the job and your passion for it, and simple, sometimes grueling hard work. And the ups and downs is a good one. I mean, sometimes we either enter a workforce or we enter a new job thinking that it's first of all, I'm going to know the job right away. I'm going to know how to do it. I'm going to know how to do it well. I'm going to immediately succeed, and I'm going to immediately be promoted, and it's all going to be easy. It's just not. There is nothing in my career that was ever easy. And another adage I will put out there, but my greatest failures were my greatest successes, because my failures are where I learned the hard knocks, how to get better. It also was a way for me to learn new skills and, quite frankly, be stronger to be willing to take the next risk. And so hard work, the mindset, but willing to fail, and hopefully fail fast and not with too much noise, but learn from it, because they were painful, but they were the best lessons and best factors that influenced my success in my career.
Again, we're probably going to be parroting each other up here, but and first I would say, aside from my degree from Mount St. Vincent University, which is probably the key factor, but building on that, I think I kind of point to a couple of things: enthusiasm in my case, and curiosity. I mean, I've done a lot of different things in my career, an awful lot of different things. But I've been curious, and I will admit that I probably get a little bored when I'm doing the same thing for an extended period of time. So finding that new thing that's interesting and making that contribution, but learning about new business or learning about different businesses, I find fascinating. And I've been able to adapt so many of the lessons that I've learned from one business to another business as I've progressed through my career.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add, I think a lot of people are being real humble up here today, it sounds like, but hard work, a lot of these people don't sit in these roles, and I would say the same for myself, but we've all worked hard, and I think we've all understood the commitment to whatever roles we serve. That's really, really important, but, so I agree with Maria 100% when, she was I'll underscore your hard work and falling through your failures and learning how to be better through your failures. And then Patrick mentioned, attitude, and I always think optimism, always being the person that kind of comes in and said, hey, I think we can do it. We opened up, an American company in Canada. There's a lot of resistance about that. And then as you go into all these little markets across Atlantic Canada, we've opened up 75 locations. If somebody wasn't optimistic about that and the idea that we could take our business model and be successful, it wouldn't have happened. So I think optimism is a big part of it. And I think for all of us in our roles, you have to find ways to reinvent yourself and make it fun, because you're generally talking about the same things all the time. And so if you can find a way to reinvent yourself and make it fun, I think that's critically important too.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're all saying the same thing. One thing that's maybe unpopular in this room for sure is you got to forget about work-life balance, right? Like if you want to be in the C-suite, you're not going to have it. This week's a good example for me. There won't be a night that I won't be home before 11 o'clock this week, right? Like between work commitments, functions, networking with various different parties, like it'll be a week where, my wife and I will pass each other in the hallway, right? And to Doug's point, it's hard work, right? The other thing I think that is important is your reputation. So, there's a cartoon that goes around that says everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten. It's kind of true, right? Like you can't tell lies. You got to have people that trust you. So you got to be upfront. You got to be able to communicate. You got to be nice to people, right? You got to be, you got to do the right things at the right times, right? And if you're not going to do that, your reputation suffers, and you're not going to be successful, right? So, in addition to what everybody else says, I think those are kind of the two unpopular, probably the two biggest factors.
And I think, when you're talking about being in a leadership role and a senior role, the amount of effort is absolutely, there's no question. It's almost it becomes a part of you. And I heard part of your guest speaker this morning talking about that work is just who he is. So it's very much your identity. But I think one of the things I wanted to mention that hasn't been talked about in terms of, other than being a Mount grad, yay, and the Mount was a big part of my life, mentorship and volunteering have been critical as well. And so when you're looking around to gain those experiences and figure out what is my philosophy on work and what is my leadership style, I've done a lot of observing of people and observing and learning, and then establishing your own style coming out of that practice. And one of the favorite things that one of my mentors has said to me once, he said, just picture, the person that you respect the most in the world is just sitting on your shoulder, like all the time. And as a bit of a North Star, of how are you conducting yourself, how are you treating others, how are you representing the organization that you clearly have to care deeply about to really make it move forward.
Yes. So what is one characteristic that you believe every leader should possess?
I thought about this one. I mean, ultimately, you have to connect with people. And there's a certain amount of, you have to be able to develop clarity in what you want the company to accomplish, and then you have to want others to want to be part of it. So I thought of charisma. There's an element of excitement, passion, energy. You have to ultimately show in everything you do, and I love that example, Sara, but that North Star, I should do that a lot more than I do. But you have to really believe in what you're doing, and you have to communicate it in such a way that others get it equally, if not more excited about it. Because it comes all full circle back to the people and the people you're working with is really key, not only to your success, but your relative engagement and happiness in what you're doing in your life. So a leader has to be able to connect with people, communicate in a way that it matters to them to be part of it. In fact, they want to be leaders. They want to be leading the way so that you become the follower and really just the coach that helps the team move forward.
I think believing yourself is for me a very important characteristic. I think of my career. I had spent about 9 years in the beer business. I had felt I had achieved what I'd wanted to in the beer business. I left the beer business and went to a company where I took a 30% cut in pay. And I will admit, many of my friends in the beer business and other friends thought I was crazy to do what I did, but I wanted to do something completely different than I had done the previous 9 years. And not that it's about money, because it's not about money, but within a year, I was making more than I had made in the beer business and more. I guess, more than I'd made in the beer business, I guess. So again, it's not about money, but you have to believe in yourself and your capacity for doing good work and looking, I think, for those opportunities that present you the opportunity to kind of grow as a leader.
Yeah, I'll add to that as well. I think for in terms of something that every leader should possess, I think you have to step back from it a little bit. And obviously leadership, people count on you for vision and to see where you need to get to and maybe help them get there, but vision is critically important. But I think one of the things I've learned over time is, although you may move up in your level and you sit in the top spot, you still have to be able to know how to go and be granular with what your business still is. So you can't be scared to go look at what your business really looks like on the front lines. And I think that's one of the things we try to do quite a bit, is keep our people at the grassroots level. Some of my best ideas come from talking to our newest employees. They let me know what's working and what's not working, and that allows me to have better vision. So I think it's really twofold. You've got to have great vision, and you can't be scared to work in the weeds every now and then, just to make sure you really know what's going on.
Yeah, just to build off of that, I think communication at the end of the day is what leadership is all about. When I kind of first became a leader, someone told me, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so unless you can connect with people, unless you get out of your office and go and talk to everybody, and you're able to learn from them and what they're doing and be able to apply that to the business, you can't really lead. The other thing that I think is important is you need to live what you say. So if you go out and tell people that they need to look like this, or they need to do that, or whatever, you've got to do the exact same thing. Otherwise, you lose credibility pretty fast.
Two words, but I think they're connected. One being courageous, and then one also being really adaptable. You hear a lot of people talking about adaptability, and it takes courage to be adaptable as well, especially when an entire sector has blown up, right? And there's probably not, I don't think there is one person at this table who hasn't had to manage through significant change. And still, you hear people talk about disruption. It's easy to kind of sit back and just watch it all unfold, but to jump right into it and say, no, we have to have the courage to actually do something that's a little bit bolder, that's going to make sure that what we do as an organization is going to be serving our mandate in the end. And it's impossible. It's impossible to do that without adaptability, but also with that courage side of it as well.
So again, I agree with everybody, and maybe my journey to this table is a little different. So I started out as president and CEO of a company of one, and believe me when I tell you I've failed along the way, and so I always define as an entrepreneur. So I speak on a lot of panels about entrepreneurship, and today I really thought I was at another entrepreneurship panel and realized that the theme is leadership, and how I've evolved from a team of one to now a team of, with all our combined companies, we're probably 1,500 people, is communication, and how it's changed from talking to listening. I try to make sure in every conversation I have with anyone in our organization is, I never pass the 20% talking point in a conversation. I want to hear what's going on, and that helps me formulate and try to lead the rest of the group. But that's hard. It's hard when you used to be the chief cook, and that's been the toughest for me at evolving, and so I'm every day a work in progress. To everyone's point here, you've just got to kind of sometimes bite your tongue, sometimes apologize, and let's start over, because even this morning I don't think I didn't act the way I just said I would like to. And as I thought about that a lot today, could I pass the throw-up test? Could the group that I work most closely with, if they were sitting at tables, could they keep a straight face when I answered these questions? So, yeah, it's a work in progress.
So, what are a few resources that you would recommend to someone looking for insight about a leadership role or just about leadership in general?
I'll start. Maybe I'll play to Marc a little bit. Stay current. I grew up reading newspapers. I grew up reading books. And there's a lot more information out there than there is on Facebook or Instagram. And you really got to stay current. In fact, you've got to stay more than current. I have spent the best part of my career reading at least 2 newspapers a day. Went for 3 for a while when I was owned by 3 newspaper companies, but now back to 2 newspapers.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we're not sponsoring this, but I like what you're saying. Keep talking. You can have my time allocation.
So you've got to stay current. You really, really do. And not only current, but what's going to happen next? I had a conversation with someone the other day who shall remain nameless. We were talking about a future development opportunity, and they said, well, we need parking lots. And my question was, do you really need parking lots? I mean, in 10 years, there will be many more, because there already are self-driving cars. There'll be many more self-driving cars than there are currently. So, you've got to read about what's happening next as well. You really, really need to stay current. Read a paper, read the online edition. You don't have to pick up the paper copy, and read magazines and read Business Week and read Harvard Business Review and those kinds of things I think are going to send you a long way towards being a leader, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's lots of resources out there in terms of print and whatnot, and reading. Voracious reading is always a good thing. The other thing that I think is probably the best is just go out and try it, right? Like, the community around you has lots of opportunities to be a leader, whether it's on a not-for-profit board, they're always looking for people. Coach a sports team, if that's what you're into. Some of us here don't go and do this, but, you have kids, right? Your kids, by default, you got to lead them, right? And there is no place where you will get quicker feedback than when you're leading your kids, right? And so just go out there and try it. Like, there's lots of opportunities to become a leader, to be active in the community, and those are the best places to learn. And someone here said, when you go, fail quick, and move on, right? And that's probably the best way.
I agree. Keeping current is critical. Reading the paper, reading journals, reading books, and look beyond business books as well. There's lots of great material out there that you can reflect on developing your own leadership style, and know that your own style will be unique to you, obviously. So just pull from what you can. A couple of specific recommendations: a really strong leadership book, and it's not that new, but it's not that old. It's called Good to Great by Jim Collins, which many of you, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. Really talks about this notion of level 5 leadership, where you need to be rooted in vision, but also rooted in humility. And because it's not about you, it's about what you're doing in the community and what you're doing for your business. And then another book that I've really enjoyed, it's called The 4 Agreements, and it's more of actually a philosophy book, but it gives 4 basic rules on how to live your life, and I think it's really relevant in the business world in addition to your personal world. And they are, number 1, never make assumptions. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, be impeccable with your word. And number 4, always do your best. Sounds pretty trite in many respects, but they've been milestones for me to try to strive towards, of course, but we're all works in progress.
Patrick didn't sell enough papers, so I am going to talk. The one thing I'd say, if you have visions on a leadership role, and I think Marie touched on it earlier, I don't want to put words in Marie's mouth, but do the job, don't ask for the job, right? It's not about titles. I wish I could remove, and we're in the process of removing titles from our whole organization. When I ask someone what they do in our company, I don't want them to tell them their title. What do you do? How are you making us better every day? And so, I've had a lot of ambitious people that are great in our team that come and want, the next job or want a new title. And, that's probably not the right approach with me. But I try to explain that to people, but I guess not to get into it too, but do the job, don't ask for the job.
Just to pick up on that, which is not exactly the question, but I just, you reminded me of it, of the importance that, we've been kind of stereotyping, positioning leadership around senior position organizations because that's who we are. But Marc, you raised such an incredibly important point, is that you're all leaders. There's no one in our organization that's not leading in some very important way, whether it's our receptionist, whether it's our administrative support, whether it's our financial service rep, whether it's the financial advisor, whether it's the VP, whether it's someone in a support function that's making sure that our accounting is working well. Every single person in the organization is a leader, and there's an expectation that we want them all to be leaders, making decisions, using sound judgment, doing their job, taking initiative. And so I wouldn't want to leave with the thought that not every single one of you is a leader, and you will be a leader. It's all about how you come to the game and how you play it each and every day.
Not going to add a whole lot of different things here other than I don't like to read. I'm going to go in a different direction here. And what I mean, I can read, Patrick.
We used to use Enterprise for our corporate solution.
Hey, look me up. I'm home delivery every day, Marc, just so you know. I assure you. Guys, they're a good delivery guy in my neighborhood too, by the way. But I look back and I say that, first of all, if you're going to read a book, I do agree with Sara that Good to Great by Jim Collins is an outstanding book. That I have read that book. But Patrick mentioned really quickly, I think you mentioned Harvard Business Review. And in addition to all the other resources that everybody else here has mentioned, I really enjoy Harvard Business Review because it's generally short. And it's to the point. And so time is valuable to everybody, and I just don't find that I have the time to sit down and read 150, 200-page books on the weekend with all the other things that you're trying to do in your life. But Harvard Business Review is, in addition to your Chronicle Herald subscription, should be number 2 or 3 on your list, because I think for $145 a year, you not only just get access to something every day, you get something every week, and you can also access their library too. So Harvard Business Review is great.
I forgot something. And that is, as I look around the room, resources, you need to look across the table at the people you're sitting with as well. So, as you become more senior in your organizations, and I think Marie makes an excellent point, we're all leaders, but stay in touch with the people that you meet here. Stay in touch with the people that you're going to meet wherever you go, and network. And don't just use LinkedIn. I mean, my God, I get 5 LinkedIn requests a day. I say yes to many of them, and you know what happens after I say yes? Nothing. Nobody talks to me. Nobody sends me an email. It's the biggest waste of time in the world. So
while you have a chance right now, please link with Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely.
While you're sitting at your table.
The condition is, if you link to me, you have to send me a note. I'm going to regret this, but you have to send me a note, because that's the only way it's useful. But take advantage of the people that you're going to meet throughout your career. Stay in touch with them, and you'll learn so much from them.
No, that actually works really great, because our next point, and I'm going to ask this as our last question because I'd like to give the students a chance to ask questions, is how would you suggest that we go about finding a mentor as we move forward? Because a number of our students here are either in their first, second, or third year, and they're looking onward to graduation and getting a full-time job. How would you suggest they find a mentor to really guide them through that process and into their careers to kickstart them off?
Start by asking. I think most leaders, entrepreneurs, I've never said no to a cup of coffee with anybody. It might not be this afternoon, but and it might take a second nudge, but I'd be happy to talk to anybody. And I wouldn't regret it. It just might take a while for it all to happen. And focus on quality, and I don't mean the biggest entrepreneur or the leader of the biggest company, but quality relationships. And focus on those and nurture them. It's not about the size of your LinkedIn or the number of people you have on LinkedIn. It's the people that you can really rely on. And I still have mentors that maybe my business is a little bigger than theirs, but they still provide that great advice. And I'm in a fortunate position where now I can call a lot of people for advice, but I kind of rely on my go-to that keep me grounded and keep me kind of, again, honest and truthful with myself about what we're capable of.
I think that's a critical point of just ask. Like, we can't underestimate that. I think sometimes it might feel a little bit intimidating, and it shouldn't for any reason at all. And like Marc, I never say no to a coffee meeting. Same thing, it could take a while, but it's so important for all of us as we're interested in building relationships and meeting new talent and sharing ideas, and it rewards us too. So I mean, I still have mentors. I mentor people. I have casual conversations that it could just be one get together that could connect you with somebody else. But we're all, we need to have that view of being one business community together, and just so don't hesitate to ask, and just try. And I think, as Marc also said, really make sure that give it thought. Like, it's not a quantity versus quality thing. Like, just don't go to LinkedIn and ask for a bunch of meetings. Be thoughtful about who do you think I could really learn from or connect with in one way based on the career trajectory and the life trajectory that I'm interested in.
Yeah, so when I think of a mentor, it's not a business network. So in other words, what you're probably going to do, and rightly so, and again, definitely ask, is meet with people to maybe get career advice, might be to network to where you might want a position or a job. I think that's really wise to do. And I think I do at least 5 or 6 of those a week. People I don't know, students, they call me, they send me an email, would you give me 15, 20 minutes? Of course I'll do that. But a real mentor is hard to find, I'll be really frank. People use the term, and it's used not loosely, but I was very lucky to get a mentor kind of at about the 5-year mark in my career, and he became one of the most important influencers in terms of my development and my leadership. But that may not have happened. It was luck a little bit. So don't give up if you don't find someone right away. It might be someone in your organization. It might be someone else that you don't even know today. But the value of it, and I just want to say this, that you might say, well, it's just not worth the time. But if you find a person that really is going to make a difference for you and really help you with those difficult questions and getting that advice, find that person, because it will truly make a difference in your career. And don't think it just will happen with the first call. There is a connection. So there's a woman, for example, that I've been mentoring now for 4 years. And I can't even remember how we originally met, but she's an entrepreneur living in Toronto. And so I've been her key advisor. She's kind of on her own building a company. And I've been linking her to other people to help her grow the company. So that's one of the value. But some of the questions we deal with are personal questions. They're professional questions. But every time she said, I can't tell you what a difference this has made in me figuring out where to take this company to the next level. So it's the term makes it sound as easy to do, it's not. But if you find the right person, it will make a significant difference in your career.
I think earlier Craig had mentioned something along the lines of being involved in coaching your kids' sports teams or charity, sitting on boards, I think is what we had suggested. And I can tell you that most of the people that I have, in terms of that I look up to from a mentorship perspective, a lot of it's just very informal. It's not a dedicated sit down every month on the first Tuesday of every month. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about these 5 things. It's the person that knows that I'm truly interested in their expertise, their opinion, and they know that when I reach out, I have a question and they're willing to give me their time. So, and sometimes it's not just within business, it's things you want to do personally. If you want to invest in real estate, you find somebody that has had success in real estate, obviously. So rather than try to fumble through that myself, you turn to people that may have done it before and say, hey, look, can you point me to somebody that knows how to do this and can navigate my first few steps? So you can't be scared to ask, but a lot of those people, for me, it really came from those informal settings, casual introductions that turned into a more formalized mentorship program, but always in an informal fashion.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to what everybody else said, because they're all good ideas, the one thing about mentorship is you actually have to get out and meet people. Like, it doesn't happen on your iPhone or, well, dare I say, BlackBerry, but it doesn't happen over technology, right? People mentioned it earlier, LinkedIn, it's a great tool, but it's just a tool. Like, if you don't follow up, if you don't say, can I go have a coffee, if you don't see somebody face to face, they're not a mentor, right? You cannot make the connection that you're going to need to be able to tell them about yourself, to hear about them, to be able to listen the same way, unless you actually get out and see the person. And there's lots of places to go to network with people. Like, there's lots of industry events, and there's lots of networking events and whatnot. But you got to go out, you got to make a connection, you got to follow up, and you got to follow up again, and you got to follow up again, and you actually got to sit in front of somebody and tell them your story.
Yeah, I mean, I think any of us would have a conversation with somebody and do often have conversations with somebody, always happy to meet for a coffee, but establishing that mentor relationship, it does take time. It takes a bit of a relationship, and it will last, hopefully, over a long period of time. So it's not easy to do, but I think just to pick up on what Craig said, I mean, I would really encourage you to get out, network, meet people face to face, and then have a coffee with them and see if you can establish that relationship. You may establish that mentoring relationship with somebody inside the first organization you go to work for, that may be the only organization you go to work for, but likely you'll meet somebody, you'll establish some commonality, and you'll continue to have those conversations over the years, and I think it's really, really important.
So now we have time for a couple student questions. I just ask that if you are asking a question, you say your name, the program you're studying in, and the school, as well as what year of study you're in. And so if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and Beth Connell from the Business and Tourism Society, she's our VP of Marketing Communications, she'll bring you the mic.
Hi. Sorry, I'm Rosemary Holland. I'm from NSCC Ivany, and I'm in my first year of business administration. And this is specifically for, well, anyone can answer it, but specifically for Sara and Marie. Just wondering how you navigate male-dominated spaces in a business environment and like maintaining integrity when it's often questioned.
That's a great question. And I don't have an answer. It's a great question. You're right. The world is changing. First of all, let me just say it is evolving from when I started. I mean, my first job was at an accounting firm in 1984, I think it was. The world has shifted considerably. I think at the end of the day, be true to yourself. It's one of the most important things. Don't be apologetic for doing the right thing and presenting yourself in a strong, professional way. And if I might just say, and I've seen this in women in particular, don't be confident, don't question, and don't worry about people not liking you, because there are people that will not like you. But that's okay if you're doing the right thing and you're being respectful and you're being true to yourself. So personally, I think it's a lot about what we do that determines what occurs in our lives. And granted, there's some things that not, and I appreciate that, but start with the view that being yourself and being authentic and being strong and being confident is critically important. And don't let the people who will label you because of that, and some of the labels, don't let that dissuade you, because you are right to be there and you need to be there.
Well said, Marie. Similar comments, and same thing, I started working 25 years ago, after graduating from the Mount, and it was a very, very different environment. But I think, as Marie said, and I'm going to agree with it, with not meaning to parrot, but being self-confident is really critical. And if something happens, if you are uncomfortable, don't let that stop you. Like, just try to really stay really comfortable in your own skin. And no question, every single one of us is going to be in a room where you're the only one, right? It's a reality. And it's certainly when I started working, I was the youngest one in the room and the only woman in the room almost all the time. But I also kept going, and I proved my worth through my work ethic and through my character. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges along the way. But also, I will say that some of my favorite colleagues and some of my greatest mentors are men in the community who have been very supportive and have helped me navigate some of those issues and self-doubt, moments of self-doubt as well. But be strong.
Perfect. We have time for one more question.
Good morning. My name is Alicia Outerbridge. I'm a Mount student and I'm doing business administration as well. My question was directed to Mr. Lynk, number 5, and in a sense, Miss Napier or Mrs. Napier. So this is a question that's probably been asked loads of times before, is whether leadership is intrinsic or is it something that's developed. So I wanted your take on that, Mr. Lynk, and then also staying grounded in vision and humility. How do you see that playing a part, considering, I guess, the idea with leadership is that it's more powerful than humble?
Wow. I don't even know where to start with that. I don't think it's intrinsic, and it's funny because you talk about, one of the questions was, what does it take to be a good leader? And everybody's different, and everybody here on the panel is different. You can tell by our mannerisms, the way we answer questions and how we think. And everybody can be a leader. You just have to get out there and do it, right? And you talk about humility and things like that. And I said it before, like if you don't make a connection with the people you're leading, they're not going to follow you. If you don't do what you say you're going to do, people don't follow you. If you don't have a good reputation, if you don't have, a good character, people won't follow you. And so you have to do all of the little things that they teach you in kindergarten, right? I got a 5-year-old child. When he goes to school, they ask him to say please and thank you, right? He takes his shoes off before he goes into the classroom. He shares his toys with the other kids. All of those little things that they teach you when you're just a little kid are the things that make you successful later on. And if you don't act the way that you want people around you to act, then they won't follow you.
For me, and when you think about humility, I think that was a question that you were wondering about, there's a big difference between being ambitious and having an ego. And so what I like to say, I guess, is, be ambitious and don't apologize for being ambitious. Sorry about the mic. But be ambitious for something, like for your team, for a mission, or for a goal, and have your eye on that. But don't make it about yourself in that respect, because then that's not going to create the results, I think, that we really need in community, and that we need in business as well, because it's always bigger than you, right? It's always bigger than you. So in terms of being humble, I think you can be both ambitious for doing wonderful and amazing things and making progress, but also being rooted in the fact that we're all works in progress, right? We're all trying to do our best. So just remember that piece, and don't. But that doesn't mean be a wallflower. I don't mean that. Be strong. You can be humble and be strong at the same time. And one resource that I might recommend is a form of, if you ever read about servant leadership, it's a really interesting kind of element of a leadership style, and that might be something that you might want to look into that explores that further.
Thank you.
Yeah, one other thing that's interesting, and it's leadership is a funny thing. It's hard to measure, right? Like, when is somebody good at leading? And I think one of the things, I cut my teeth in banking, in corporate banking. We did big deals, and that was exciting and fun, and they put funky trophies on your desk, right, and tombstones for this and that. And that's not really the measure of leading, right? When I think about the legacy that I left in the banks that I worked in, it's the people who are now in leadership roles that I mentored coming along, right? And so when you talk about humility and you talk about, leading in an organization, it's all about the people, right? And so the people that are in senior positions at HSBC and CIBC doing those deals now are the people that I trained, that I mentored, that we brought along, that we promoted, that we supported. And I think really when you come down to, okay, what is a good leader and what's the measure of a good leader? It's the quality of the people that they bring around them.
Just one final remark. To be honest, we all have big egos. We do. We do, especially Patrick. He's got the biggest ego of anyone here. The point I'm making, I'm being a little bit over the top, but the point is, to be a leader, you have to have confidence and you've got to be courageous. I love the words that Sara had used before. You got to have a good ego, because if you don't, you're going to fail, right? Guaranteed, you're going to fail. You have to have some level of ego and confidence to pick yourself up and go to the next level. The difference, if I might say, so I think you need to be confident, and you're going to have a strong, well-defined ego to be successful. The difference is not to be disrespectful. You know, whether you call it humility, and I think the people that I see who are incredibly strong leaders with big egos, where I think where they fall on times, that they're disrespectful. They're not assuming goodwill of others. They're not treating people the way they should be treated. So I'm not sure if it's humility is the biggest part, because I'd say, yeah, maybe we are humble, but you know what? I'd say we're all pretty, we feel really good when we succeed. Like, we're humble and we're part of a team, but we're really happy when we can say, gosh, God, I did that. I got it done. That's important to us. That's part of what the makeup of a leader is. But how you treat others in the process really defines your leadership.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our panelists that are here with us today.